Hi, this is Scott Garibay. Excuse me. And today we're going to talk about Conan OBrien. Conan OBrien going to Greenland and unintentionally, but very specifically, forwarding the inevitable purchase of Greenland by America. All right? It's a huge occurrence. It's subtle, right, what's happening, but it's a big deal. And it really points to what is happening in America and why there's so much confusion in America because of like the changes in our politics, in our culture, in our society. The pace is so high, it's easy to get confused, but I'm going to bring clarity today. All right, so let's talk about this Conan OBrien situation. All right, so first, before we talk about Conan OBrien, I have to tell you about a moment I saw probably 2 or 3 years ago on YouTube that is a perfect analogy for what happened with Conan OBrien. This aired yesterday on his show. Conan OBrien actually went to Greenland and he's done some comedy, but it didn't turn out to be comedy at all. And we're going to talk about that, all right? Okay, so basically, I watched a YouTube show a couple of years ago, and it had a normal structure for a YouTube show. It had 2 hosts, and they have an assistant, right? And the assistant is assisting them with these different things that they're doing for the show. And there's just witty banter going back and forth. They're joking, they're laughing, they're having a good time. And the assistant, and then one of the hosts says something, and then the assistant got into a playful mood, and I'll explain what the assistant did. All right, so let me explain what the assistant is. The assistant is a shiny person. Now, a shiny person is a person who is conventionally objectively attractive. Okay, so what would this be? Like in American culture, right? Under the age of 30, so under the age of 30, thin, symmetrical, right? So, and great hair, all right? That there you go. That's now a shiny person has 3 of these, or maybe all of these, right? And, in American culture, attractiveness is almost like a superpower. It allows you to do everything you're going to try to do easier, right? So this assistant was all 4, right? Under the age of 30, symmetrical, thin, great hair, right? So there came this point where the assistant was being playful, right? And there was a joke made, and the assistant went to put on the pose of a model, right? They threw their hand on they started this motion of this traditional model pose where you throw your hand on your hip, you kind of cock your head back, your hair goes behind you, your face is like presented at the right angle, all of that, right? And I will never forget this moment, right, where the assistant was putting on this pose that a model would use to increase their being alluring, right? And I remember the assistant caught themselves. They just went into the motion and caught themselves just 10% into the motion and went, "Oh crap. I can't make a joke about being alluring and being like a model because I literally look like a model, right? That's not my job, but I have every single attribute a model has. And if I put myself into this alluring pose, it's not going to be a mockery of being alluring. It's going to be alluring." So you could see the assistant stop themselves in mid-motion. It was one of the most stunning things I'd ever seen. I was like, that person just realized in the moment that they cannot mock being alluring because they're literally alluring, right? And it was really, really I remember, it's been in my head for a while, but when I saw this Conan OBrien thing, I was like, oh my gosh, right? So let me explain what happened. So here's what happened. Conan OBrien, just like every other media member, right? Now I'm fully aware, Conan OBrien presents as a comedian. But the reality is, this is the point of everything I'm saying today. Conan OBrien really is a journalist, right? Now, why on earth would Conan OBrien, a man who jokes constantly, be a journalist? Well, here's why. Because when you're commenting on the events of the day virtually every single day, and your material is coming out very currently, right? And you are having a conversation with your audience, with the people that you're bringing that material to, right? Those are the activities of a journalist, right? And we like to think that these comedians are journalists, but the reality is Jon Stewart changed all that. When people were watching Jon Stewart more than traditional journalists, and that trend has completely continued with Trevor Noah, and certainly with Conan O'Brien, and with Colbert, and with Jimmy Kimmel. They're journalists. They want to slap a label of comedy on there, but they're not, right? Like, if you're bringing news every single day and you're getting your material from the same sources that traditional journalists are, right? Like, what on earth is the difference between Anderson Cooper and Conan O'Brien? There's really no difference anymore, right? Now, it gets even stranger, right? Because this was a situation where Conan O'Brien was trying to make a joke, but his activities, he accidentally committed journalism, right? And not small-time journalism, like journalism where nations change, right? Conan O'Brien may have functionally changed our world yesterday. He's not aware of it. I'm aware of it, right? I pay hyper close attention to politics, and I saw what was happening. I don't think anybody else did, but I saw it. So let me present it to you. Okay. Conan O'Brien literally goes to Greenland, right? Flies up there, goes, gets off the airport, interacts with their people, right? Well, this whole Trump thing had just happened like maybe a week or two ago. And to make a joke, Conan O'Brien travels, he travels to their country, right? He traveled to their country. Then he met with Greenland's parliament. He met with Greenland's parliament, he met with the head of Greenland's parliament, right? He met with a member of Greenland's parliament. His name is Pele Broberg. He's not like an assistant. He's a real member of Greenland's real parliament. I think he's the head, right? I followed him yesterday on Twitter, and brilliant guy, but this is real. Like, this isn't like a joke, right? Also, just so you're aware, last week, Hassan Minhaj met with Justin Trudeau, right? Like, you're acting like this is a joke. It's not. This is real journalism, right? And one of the problems we're having is people are pretending to be the thing, and then here's the kicker, right? So wait, let's get all the way through with Conan O'Brien. He actually traveled to the country. He actually sat down with Greenland's parliament, or lead, right? I'm pretty sure he's the lead. Otherwise, he's just a member, right? He sat down with their lead, and then he put a briefcase of money on the table. Was like, I'm offering you this money so that America can buy Greenland. Now, this is where it gets really weird, right? Everything Conan O'Brien is doing is a joke, right? But guess what? Pele Broberg is not a comedian. He is an actual real politician with real power in Greenland, right? And he said something that was not funny. It was downright frightening, because the ramifications of it are echoing off the walls today. You know what Pele Broberg said to Conan O'Brien when Conan O'Brien tried to buy Greenland, to help the negotiations for America to buy Greenland? He said, hey, if anybody's going to sell Greenland, it will be Greenlanders, not Denmark, right? Oh, ha, ha, ha. Oh, so funny. That's not funny, right? That is a true Greenlander, someone who actually lives on the land, shaking their fist at the real queen of Denmark, going, we are a free and independent people. That's not funny. Like, wars have been fought for less, right? Like, this is not like Conan O'Brien was going into the alluring pose, acting like it would be funny that he was a model, but he is a journalist. He was pretending to be a journalist, forgetting he's actually a real journalist, right? And so what happened yesterday was he literally brought forward a comment from somebody on the ground, right? And what they were saying, Pele Broberg, who is a very real member of Greenland Parliament, right, was actually saying something that has huge, mammoth political ramifications, saying Greenlanders own Greenland, not Denmark. This is getting very, very real, right? And everybody can laugh and think it's a little skit on Conan OBrien. It's not, right? Conan can make his jokes, but when you take the actions of a journalist, when you go to the country, when you sit down with the political leaders of that nation, and when you put literally money on the table and act like you're giving a negotiation, are you doing you're literally doing the actions of a real journalist. This is no longer a joke. This is very real reality, right? This is worse than reality TV. This is more government content than you would see on C-SPAN, right? Like, this is real, right? Like, Pele Broberg is not a comedian. He is not a joke. And when he shakes his fist figuratively at the Queen of Denmark, this is real. Like, we are in the real world, right? Now, here's what makes this situation 100 times worse. Not only is Conan OBrien committing journalism, but the journalists are committing comedy constantly, incessantly, far more than they're committing journalism, right? Look at the coverage of 2016. The coverage, the media's coverage, the journalists' coverage of 2016 was laughable. What did they do? Well, they covered flawed polls constantly. Numbers that were so bad, they now are laughable. Ha ha ha! Trump won! Oh boy, isn't that funny, everybody? Woo! That's high comedy, right? Like, it's insane. That what did the media do in 2014? They assured the entire world that a titan, right, Donald Trump, an absolute political predator with claws and fangs, was a jester. That he was just a cuddly little furry bear, and that Hillary Clinton was just going to swat him down like he was a koala bear, just knock him off the tree. But what nobody realized was he was a tiger with fangs 100 times larger and claws 100 times larger, and that Hillary was the koala bear, right? Like, she was the amateur. She was the political amateur, and he was the political professional. Nobody saw it. Nobody realized it because the 2016 journalists were committing comedy, right? And then what have they done ever since? What have the actual journalists done ever since? They've gotten up in the morning, read tweets, and then read those tweets to us. Ha ha ha! Boy, hi, that's high comedy. Woo! That's so funny, journalists. So we are here now because our comedians are committing journalism, and our journalists are committing comedy, right? And the comedy, the funny hits from the journalists just keep coming. Like yesterday, I think it was like one of the networks said there are going to be 10 people in the debate, left Yang's name off the graphic. And there were not, the graphic said 9 people and Yang's name was off the graphic, right? Even after there have been hundreds of stories about the Yang blackout, right? Like the Yang media blackout. It's like, the other thing that we're seeing too is Trump has excelled. Trump has succeeded. Trump has claimed victory 100-fold during his presidency because people are like, Trump's crazy. They keep saying he's crazy, right? It's not craziness, right? And the reality is, it seems like Trump's crazy at times, and people were just, they thought this was just such a high comedy part when he said, I'm going to buy Denmark. I'm going to buy Greenland from Denmark, right? He didn't even say that. He just, like, give me the analysis, give me the numbers, and started the conversation, right? And everybody thought this was a joke. It's turning out to not be a joke by any stretch of anyone's imagination, right? So basically, and the reason why is, it looks like craziness on the part of Trump, but it's not craziness, and here's the part that everybody's matching. Our world is crazy now, right? Like, that's the issue, right? Trump fits perfectly in the world because his crazy, outlandish appearing actions actually perfectly fit our crazy, outlandish appearing world, right? We live in a world where there's a robot who is a citizen of Saudi Arabia, who the United Nations has given a title and given tasks. That's real, right? We live in a world where we're discussing, when will AI arrive? When will we stop driving our cars? People constantly talk to themselves on the street through their Bluetooth headphones. So to the point where if you came across a person who was talking to themselves in the middle of the street and not talking to anyone, you wouldn't even recognize it because it's what you see every day, right? The word crazy is overused, right? But people look at Trump's outlandish activities, right? And they're shocked, but the reality is what they're forgetting is Trump's outlandish activities fit the world perfectly because the world has become outlandish, right? And we are fully in the zone of where our comedians are routinely committing journalism and our journalists are routinely committing comedy, right? And because those two people are utterly confused about who and what they are, we can't tell the difference, right? Well, I can. I saw exactly what Conan OBrien did. I saw the fact that he traveled to the country, he sat down with with Greenland's world leader, and he continued the negotiations for buying Greenland, right? And he acted like this was a joke, and I think he thought it was a joke. But what he forgot is when journalists have not been doing this, right? When they had not been traveling to the country, actually talking to the leaders of the country, right? That when the journalists aren't doing the things that journalists should be doing, or even if they are, their execution of it so poor that no one sees it, or very few people see it. When it's either not being done, or it's being done and the visibility and the execution is so poor that it never reaches mass viewership, then what you do is the journalism, right? Well, that's the issue. Conan OBrien committed journalism this week. For real. When Conan OBrien flew to Greenland and sat down with Pele Broberg, who I believe is the lead of Greenland's parliament, and then Pele Broberg said, if anybody's going to sell Greenland, it's going to be Greenlanders, the 56,000 people who live in Greenland today, right? And not Denmark. That was a mighty, echoing statement that has true and real political ramifications, right? That's not a joke anymore, right? And this is the perfect analogy for where we actually are in the history of America. We have arrived at a point where comedians are committing journalism and journalists are committing comedy, right? And they're confused and we're confused, but I'm not confused. I saw it for exactly what it is, and I'm hoping you're going to see it too. I really feel like we need to start realizing that when you are the thing and then you pretend you're the thing, you are the thing, right? That's the point the point of it today. And we are truly reaching a point where very few people really know who and what they are, right? And so we need clarity. We need to look clearly. We need to look carefully, right? All of that is my opinion. What do you think? When do you think America will buy Greenland? Will it be this year, next year, the third year of Andrew Yang's presidency? I'd love to know your opinion. Let me know in the comments below. Please consider liking and subscribing, and have a wonderful millennium.